All right, this is the scheduled meeting, Economic Development Committee for November 5th. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Girani.
Here.
Councilman Hogg.
Here.
Councilman Turk.
Here.
Approval of the minutes from October 8th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Councilman Hogg.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
A new business a presentation by Buxton, if John and Cody are ready.
Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you for coming. I know I've met with your group before, and I was very impressed, so I figured we'd have you back for the other two councilmen.
Appreciate that, Mayor. My name is John Rice. I'm Director of Sales for the Buxton Company, and with me today is my colleague, Cody Howley. He's the Vice President General Manager of the Community ID section of our company. And today what I'm here to discuss with you is really improving the quality of life for the residents of Joliet. Assisting you in the way that Buxton's going to do that is by creating a really targeted strategy when it comes to retail recruitment and retention. So what we're going to be looking at is creating that two-prong approach, assisting you in recruiting the businesses that are currently lacking in the community. What businesses are your residents currently leaving to shop for? What services are they looking that they cannot receive currently in Joliet? Then as well, assisting your local businesses. Make them more competitive, make them stronger, and understand the market, how your residents are as customers so they can better understand that. With obviously the tangible benefit is going to be increased sales tax revenue, increased property tax revenue, along with some jobs in construction and things of that nature. So to start off, a little bit of a brief history about Buxton. We started in 2002 on the private sector side. Since that time, and over 2 decades, we've worked with over 2,000 different retail private side clients, and we have over 500 years combined experience in the retail and restaurant management market. As you can see, these are a list of some of the retailers that we've worked with in the past. Applebee's, for example, we help them understand the potential, their U.S. potential across certain markets. So how many franchises could they support in a given area? Trader Joe's, one of the hot topic grocery stores coming into the area. We're their partners. They're expanding into new markets, expanding from west to east. FedEx, Bed Bath & Beyond, understanding cannibalization. How many stores, again, can an area support? We answer 3 main questions for our private clients. Who your customers are, where they are, and then the value that those customers provide to your retail option. And that's exactly what we're going to bring forward to our community clients. So through our work with that, we've been recognized by several industry-leading publications. Retail Traffic named us one of the 3 most influential companies in retail. Along with that, you'll see ICMA, the International City County Management Association. ICMA has asked Buxton on numerous occasions to provide expertise reports on what is happening in economic development as far as the retail world goes. In fact, just in September at the ICMA meeting in Boston, we were a strategic partner, and again, we were asked to speak on what we're seeing in the marketplace currently taking place. Through that work, we've been asked by several communities to work with us in assisting them in finding out what retailers are a good fit for their communities. We started in 2002. The way that we started is that a community approached us. They were in the process of recruiting a retailer. They spent 9 months recruiting that retailer and were ultimately unsuccessful. The retailer informed them that through their third-party source, Buxton, that at this point the community was not a good fit based on the customers that currently existed in that community. The community, once they were able to kind of, control the anger that they had wasting 9 months, thought outside of the box and actually approached Buxton and asked if we could actually reverse engineer a product. Instead of helping retailers find communities that are a great fit for them, can we help communities find retailers that are a good fit? So through that, we've worked with over 650 communities to date, recruit over 35 million square feet of retail. In using standard kind of metrics, that roughly translates into about $6 billion increased annual dollars in sales tax revenue. As you'll see here, locally, we worked with the village of Plainfield, the city of Bloomington, just our, your neighbors to the south, the city of Rochelle to the west, as well as several other larger type cities, city of San Jose, Denton, Texas, Tulsa, Fort Worth, Texas, Atlanta. The size and shape of the communities that we've worked with is wide ranging. People from 1,600 population all the way up to your major metropolitans of 1 million. So just to kind of briefly sum up what we've done for the city of Bloomington, that's a quote from their economic development editor, Justine Robinson up top. They use Scout on a daily basis to really assist their local businesses understand what's happening in the marketplace. And in the first year of partnering with Buxton, which was in 2011, they saw a 20% increase in their sales tax receipts, which roughly was about $3 million in sales tax revenue. So they saw a real benefit in the cost of partnering with Buxton and using our knowledge on the private sector side to bring that forward to their community. As you can see, population-wise, they're in fact very similar to the city of Joliet. And then Rochelle. Rochelle had a completely different goal. They were really lacking in almost all retail categories. So they partnered with Buxton, and over 3 years, they brought 50 new retail stores to the community. They also used our data with their Chamber of Commerce in finding out, again, what the local businesses are lacking. How can we assist our local businesses to be more competitive, reach a wider audience, and increase their sales? As you can see there, they also entered in the Sears Holtown stores, where a military veteran was actually awarded a retail store through their efforts and through some of the data that Buxton provided. So really an out-of-the-box use of our data, but again, taking advantage of what is there and really helping grow that business. So as I stated earlier, that who, where, and value for our retail clients, that's what we're going to bring to their public sector side. Who your clients are, or your citizens are, but not just as your residents, but as customers. What retail options are they going to embrace and support? What are they currently lacking? Why are they leaving your community for goods and services? Can we keep them local? Where they are. So again, is it the downtown area? Is it in the suburbs? Where are those residents located that are going to be customers for new retail options? And then what they require. What type of retail is it? Is it fast food? Is it high-end dining? Is it automotive parts stores? Things of that nature. Fill those gaps and cut that leakage. And then how their needs are going to be changing over time. Give you the data so that you can better anticipate the needs of your residents moving forward. So to first start, the first prong of our approach is the recruit new retail, finding bringing those best practices from our private sector side forward. We understand retail, it's in our DNA, so using that to your benefit. Creating a proactive and targeted list of retailers that are also looking for cities just like Joliet, and assisting you in successfully recruiting them. And again, to cut that leakage, what is currently lacking? How can we keep more local dollars local? And the point of this, all this together and partnering with Buxton, is to help you think like a retailer. What questions are these retailers going to be asking you that they need to know about your community before they decide to invest multi-million dollars in your community in a store location? How can they know that they're going to be successful? Separating yourself from the pack of the other thousands of communities that are approaching them on a yearly basis to put Joliet on the short list to open up a location sooner rather than later. In the past, a lot of communities are usually relegated to demographic data. So as you'll kind of see here, we've got two potential customers of a retailer. They're both in the same age range, same income range. They're both in the same relationship status, same state of life. But the problem is, as a retailer, this data is not actionable. This does not tell me for certain that they are going to be a customer of my store or dine at my restaurant. So we at Buxton want to fill in those gaps. We want to provide data to those retailers, to you, that are going to show that yes, they will be in fact a customer. And we're going to do that with psychographic data. So really fill in those blanks. So for example, now we know that Ben Shaw is a Netflix subscriber and Tom King prefers to attend movie theaters. If you were trying to attend a Regal Cinema Concept or a similar movie type theater, that is going to be information vital to that movie theater looking to make a $15 million minimum investment in your community. Do I have more Tom Kings over Ben Shaws? And how do I know? And then where are they located? We're going to answer those questions for you. So how do we know this? Buxton pulls from over 250 data sources. So Experian, Equifax, reward card data, credit cards, magazine subscriptions. Whether we know it or not, we are voluntarily giving away data about ourselves on a daily basis. And Buxton is the largest purchaser of that data in the entire United States. So again, really leveraging the amount of data that we have to answer the questions that these retailers are going to be asking you. And we maintain that data on over 130 million households across the US, and inside those individual households, up to 7 individuals. So really understanding the opportunity that exists for a retailer across a national landscape so that we can help you better explain your story and the opportunity that exists in Joliet. On top of the fact, our data is on average updated every 8 weeks. So you're constantly having fresh data to approach retailers with. You're not relying on demographics, which maybe was a year ago or several years ago when the last census was taken. So now that we understand the who, we can begin to look at the where. Where are my residents located, and what customers, what retail options would they make up well as customers? And we're going to do this using a drive time trade area as opposed to radial rings, which have been used in the past. And the reason that we prefer a drive time trade area is, one, retailers are looking at a drive time trade area over radial rings because it takes into account things like geographic boundaries. So you've got the river here and you've got several bridges that come across downtown. That's going to impact the amount of residents that are able to patronize a retailer that's located on one side of the bridge over another. So really looking at the effect that that is going to have, as well as people shop convenience. When you say that you're going to go meet a friend, you tell them that it's going to take me 15 minutes to get there. You don't tell them that it's going to take 5.5 miles. So really expanding on that and showing these retailers, the customers, where they're located and where they exist and how long it's going to take for them to get there. The day in, day out business is what we're after. Showing those retailers, again, how much, the amount of customers that are going to be regularly patronizing their store. Everyone outside of that drive time trade area is going to be gravy to the retailer. So now that we understand the who and the where, we can put those together and find out the value that your residents have as customers to retail options by creating your unique retail trade area thumbprint. And this is where the experience of Buxton, our 20 years on the retail sector, is really going to come into play. We're going to match you to over 5,000 different retailers, national, regional, and local. If a retail location has 3 or more stores on the ground, we have a model for them in our system. We can find out what market segments what customers are important to them, and then see if those customers exist in Joliet to the point that it would make sense for that retailer to open up a new location there to take advantage of those customers. So as we can see here in this brief example, maybe Subway, which isn't highlighted in blue, is in fact a great fit for Joliet based off the data. But we know the expansion plans for Subway. We know that they're currently looking to open up new markets in Illinois and specifically the Joliet area. So again, answering that, providing that expertise and providing that value that we have on the private sector side to you on the public sector side. So you're not going after retailers that are not looking for you. So you're not wasting your time and spending resources that could be better spent elsewhere. So to help you recruit these retailers, we're going to provide you with a retail recruitment package. And this is a brief example of one here. As you can see, this graph, which is the one page of many pages that are included in this document full of data to help you explain your story to retailers, it's going to look at the national landscape that exists for that retailer, and then it's going to match your drive time trade area to those market segments. So finding out those customers that are important. Do they match the customers that are important to that retailer? Helping them cut straight through the bush and just go tell them that, yes, you need to look at our community and here's the reasons why. On top of that, we're also going to provide you with the contact information for the real estate decision maker. So instead of, sometimes that can be the hardest part of the process. Who do I need to talk to? Who's going to come to Joliet and make this real estate decision on behalf of the retailer? We're going to find that information out for you and provide it to you, as well as provide a warm-up letter on your behalf. Let the retailer know that you partnered with a third-party unbiased source in Buxton who is extremely well-respected in the retail market, and let them know that you did your due diligence. You did your part to find out that Joliet, yes, is a match for you, Mr. Retailer, and here are the reasons why. And it's not just demographic data. It's based off actual customer psychographic data that is also important to you. On top of the fact of this is a real partnership with Buxton. We want you to be successful. Your success is our success. Recruiting retail is a marathon, it's not a sprint. Retailers are looking at their real estate plans 12, 24 months into the future. So we want to get you in front of them as soon as possible so that you can get on that plan. So we've got additional scout training, which I'm going to go to here in a second. The ICSC conference in Las Vegas that happens every year. We've got the largest booth in the technology center. We have 3 meeting rooms available so that if you want to meet with a retailer on kind of a neutral court, so to speak, you can meet them at the Buxton booth. We will be there to support you throughout that process. Any additional information you need, a question a retailer asks you that you aren't sure how to answer, we can provide you that information right there on the trade show floor. And then any additional research. We know that your community is constantly changing, things are happening. Keep us informed, let us know what's happening. We can see how that's gonna affect your drive time trade area, which retailers are a match. Maybe you were successful in landing a new employer to the community, how that might impact with those additional jobs, and see which retailers are a good fit. That's kind of the recruitment of retail strategy. Are there any questions at this point before I move forward to the retention side?
Am I to understand that if we were interested in getting a certain restaurant, a certain business, we could go to you and have you draw up and see if that restaurant or retail would work here in Joliet?
Correct.
That's correct.
So what part of our, sorry, Matt.
Finish the second part, and you would then put us in touch with the person that we need to talk to from them to get that information to them.
Correct. Correct.
All right.
Part of our process in working with you in this partnership is asking from you a wish list. What would you like to see? Either the retail store type or the exact name of a retail store. And we'll answer that question one way or the other. It's either a yes, they're a match, here's the retail recruitment package if you would like to go forward, or no, and here's the reasons why. You don't have the customers in place that are important to that retailer. Or we can't match you based off of our data, looking at maybe there's a limited number of sites to look at. So maybe it's a retailer that only has 1 or 2 store locations on the ground. We can't with relative certainty assume that that retailer is going to be a great fit. So we can tell you why, yes or no.
You have questions?
Okay. So kind of move into the retained business side, which obviously is very important for communities. We all have those great mom and pop shops that really are the fabric, the dynamic of our communities. So really, how can we help them be more successful? How can we build those public-private partnerships with our local business owners? Buxton is going to be able to give you, the community, the data to go and share with your local business owners to strengthen those bonds. Again, the goal is to cut that leakage. Provide more products and services that are going to be available for your customers that are currently going to Romeoville or Crest Hill or other surrounding communities. So one of those reports that you're going to be able to provide for your local business owners is a market analysis report. So we can do the exact same thing that we do for our private side clients. What customers are important to that local business? And then more importantly, how to reach those customers. Is it through direct mail campaigns? Is it local newspaper ads? Is it social media? How can they better obtain more customers that are important to them using their drive time trade area? So really providing that individual expertise to your local businesses. A gap analysis retail leakage report, which I provided to you in the folders in front of you. I provided you 2 reports, one looking at your city limits specifically, and the other doing a 10-minute drive time trade area from Washington and Jefferson, so that intersection. And you'll be able to see what you're kind of leaking and have a surplus of. This is a great 30,000-foot view of your community. Where are our residents currently leaving? Why are they shopping for other different things? Is it cars? Is it auto parts? Is it apparel? Is it food and drinking places? We can show you that kind of thing on a high level access. Then what are you a surplus for? What are you kind of known for in the customer market? Why are people from outside of Joliet coming to your community to shop? This analysis will show you that type of report. And then when we talk about, and this is a great tool to use with your local businesses, this is a tool that we actually developed in partnership with Walmart. It's a customer propensity report. So we're using the example of alcohol beverages and beer here. So as you can see, Milwaukee's best light low-cal beer, with 100 being the national average, is a 97% more likely to be purchased by the residential population and 87% more likely by the workplace population. So you can imagine that if you go to a local restaurant, a local bar, a local alcohol liquor store, the type of value this information would bring to them. That maybe they need to stock their shelves more strategically, that they need to be stocking Milwaukee's Best Light Low-Cal beer over a different brand, or they need to provide tap space for that beer. And this is all based off of using our 250 data sources in combination to find out what your customers, your residents, have a higher propensity to purchase. And this goes into, as you can see, 32 different categories, 4,800 different line items, and it goes by brand name. So it could be Hershey's over Ghirardelli, it could be Lee's over Wranglers. How to stock how to stock their shelves more strategically, make better business decisions using data. And then demographic data. We can provide this to you, of course. We know that this is important for you when you're trying to recruit a new business, but it's just not actionable enough for retailers, as I've kind of demonstrated just a few minutes ago. But we can provide that data to you right through our online portal, which we have just developed. This is going to be this is an upgraded model called Scout Touch. It's going to be available on an iPad, which we are going to provide to you as well, preloaded with all of our findings. This offers you 24/7 access to all of the data that we store at Buxton. It's based off the Google Maps platform, so it's extremely easy and intuitive to use. Anybody will be able to bring this tool to a meeting and be able to use it. And it really provides you an advantage to your local business owners, being able to see the opportunities and threats that exist in your community. It gives you, as community leaders, the ability to lead with answers to questions your local business owners and retailers are going to be asking you. So what does this contain? As we'll kind of see here, it's going to geolocate to you and pull up a drive time trade area exactly where you're standing. You can also save trade areas that you've looked at before. So you're going to be able to talk to retailers. Maybe you're looking at a potential site, And you can look at the drive time trade area as you're standing on that site with that retailer and show them the value that that trade area has to that specific retailer. It also is going to be able to show you all those retail match reports. So for example, here we're looking at Fort Worth and we're looking at 10 different targets that Fort Worth is looking at. Maybe they're talking to Target right in front of them. They're at ICSC and they're talking to Target. They're going to be able to pull up all the information that is specific to Target that's important to them. So they can pull up that retail match report on an iPad, on your iPhone, on your laptop. Anything that has an interconnection, you're going to be able to pull this report up right in front of them and talk about it. No more needing binders and loads of paperwork to talk to these retailers. It's all going to be electronic. So now maybe you're talking to Target, they've decided to make a site visit. We can show them the competition that exists for Target in your community and where they're located. So now we know that Walmart's located north and south, and we've got Kroger's to the east and west. Target, we feel this location is a great fit for you based off the egress and ingress, based off the highway in this location. Being able to have that conversation using terms that retailers are going to be using, which we are going to provide you and teach to you. And then your local businesses. Again, you can be in their place of business, pull up the propensity report, and then be able to email that report to them straight while you're having the conversation. Again, really powerful, leading with answers, building those public-private partnerships. That's Scout Touch. This is something that no one else in the industry has. This is proprietary to Buxton. This is a tool that we have developed. In our partnership with us, this is one of the tools that you're going to be using, a tool that communities like Bloomington are using on a daily basis. Our most successful communities are using Scout on a daily, if not weekly basis to help them talk to retailers, recruit retail, and speak with local business owners.
How often is this updated?
It's updated constantly.
Okay.
Constantly. It's always refreshed with our newest data. You're able to save reports that you've looked at as well. So you can save all that. It's really customizable. It's a great tool. You let us know what type of information is going to be assisting you in recruiting a retailer. Maybe Target wants to see the site. Maybe they don't want to commit to a site visit per se. You can download pictures and have that ready to pull up right through Scout Touch. So just to briefly sum up on these two strategies, really our main goal is really to improve that quality of life for your residents. Find those retailers, those goods and services that they're currently lacking, having to leave the community for, and spend the time to shop for and dine at. Bring them local. Make them bond more with the community. And then retain and support those local businesses. Build those local private, those public-private partnerships. Become a real strong, create those bonds between the community and yourself. Help them increase their bottom lines by strategically using data to stock their shelves, make business decisions. And the end goal, of course, is going to be to increase that sales tax revenue for your community, increase the property taxes by bringing in those new retailers, and, of course, construction jobs and things of that nature. Gentlemen, I would open the floor up to you for any questions at this time. I will say that Buxton is ready to proceed when you are. The retail recruitment packages will be completed in 60 days of you signing an agreement with us, so we're ready to go when you are.
Is it in here, the cost?
No, it's not. The cost is, it's a 3-year agreement, and I will go ahead and email this to you after the meeting. It's a 3-year agreement for $50,000 a year.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
It's a 3-year agreement for $50,000 a year for a total investment of $150,000.
John, can you send us some references that we might contact?
I can definitely do that.
Communities?
Definitely do that.
Maybe somebody that would be comparable, even
Sure.
if it's not in Illinois, preferably in Illinois, but you know,
Sure.
to comparable size and demographics. And if I understand this right, let's oversimplify it. You present the sales tools to bring new business, but as a city then, if we were to get the Scout, you're going to provide data for existing businesses that will help them to better serve their customers so we can reduce leakage.
Exactly.
And to reiterate what you said, you know, for anybody watching what leakage is people saying, I got to buy it outside of Joliet because it's just not here.
Exactly.
Or it's not the quality I want, or whatever their excuse may be.
Right. And I'm going to stress every community has leakage. I mean, being this close to Chicago, you're going to have leakage. I mean, people are going to be going to Chicago for a weekend out in the town. So a lot of communities have it. It's nothing really to fret about, but it shows the opportunity that exists. So you have the ability, the people are looking to buy these goods and services. They're just not readily available to do so, like you said, at stores that they want to. So we want to find those stores that they're currently leaving for and bring them here.
And what might you bring to the table if you had a local Joliet area entrepreneur who wanted to open a business and they came to us and said, we're thinking about a business. Mm-hmm. We could provide the same data to them
Yes.
for the business that they want?
Yes.
And what if they wanted to sit down with somebody from your company?
Of course.
Even teleconference.
Of course. No, we would be more than happy. As our partner, we want you to be successful. As I stated, your success is our success. If you have a local entrepreneur that maybe has an idea for a business, we can look at that drive time trade area. We can find the market segments, the customers that exist. So let's say it's a cleaners, a dry cleaners. We can look at what exists. Does he have a lot of white collar individuals that are going to need suits cleaned, suits pressed, and things of that nature? We can look at that those customers and see maybe that isn't a good fit over here, but maybe over this location is a good fit for your type of business. So really, it really can help entrepreneurs on a great deal.
Now these small, locally owned, local business owners or potential business owners could certainly hire other firms to do it. Do you have a typical, just a ballpark, what it might cost? They can get this through the city if we're a partner with Buxton.
Right.
If they did it on their own, there'd be a fee, obviously, usually. Are you familiar at all with it, what that might be?
If they were to partner with Buxton on just your kind of basic scout, which would just, no modeling, just basically access to, market segmentation data and things of that nature. I believe, Cody, that roughly about 20,000 or so? About $20,000 with us.
For the individual business to do
Right.
it. But they can do it through us.
For free.
For free.
If that's what you want to make available. We've had several communities that partner with their chambers of commerce in the cost because this is obviously information that is going to be very helpful to local business owners.
Now, in your recruitment strategies, I noticed we looked at a lot of the chains. Do you have recruitment strategies for privately held non-chain businesses as well?
Are you talking about like one-offs?
Sure.
Not so much because, we can assist you. We can look at the drive time trade area that exists for that business and find out the customers that exist. The problem is they're successful in that location. There may be unforeseen things that we aren't able to see based off of one location. Really, the more locations you have, the better you can average that type of data to make a relative certainty that it's going to be successful. So we could look at the market segmentation and the customers that exist, and we could see if it's a match. So we could say that yes, looking at your current one store, this would be a great fit. But we can't provide the certainty that Buxton likes to pride itself on.
Mike?
My only question is where do we go from here then? Once we get the references and then do you submit a formal proposal or?
Yes, I can provide a formal proposal to you this week if needed.
And then we could ask staff to identify a funding source, which is kind of good timing. We're just starting we're in the middle of our budget for next year, which starts January 1st. So then we need the rest of the council to look at this also.
If it's the wish of this committee to bring it to the full council, then we would have to schedule you to appear before the full council for this same presentation for them to decide if in fact they wanted to hire you.
And I can be here whenever needed.
I don't know what the wish of this, maybe we'll discuss it and see.
Sure. I have one question for Jim. Jim, what do we have in place now, even with our limited staff having been reduced in the last few years, that would come close to doing any of this, specifically recruitment as well as retention?
Yeah, in the past we've done a strategy on all this recruitment and retention through the CED. All of the communities in Will County have partnered with the CED. The CED, by agreement for the past 20 plus years, has been the lead agency for all of our economic development. We've been fortunate before the collapse of the economy in that we've had more than an ample supply of businesses that have wanted to come to Joliet, that with the limited amount of staff that we had all we could do to take the ones that wanted to come here. We weren't in the mode of having to go out and recruit people in any of the segments to try to get them to come here. They were coming here automatically and asking us, can we please come to your community and where's a good site? And we've identified a site. And so what we would do is really enable them to, through the planning process or the annexation process or the extension of sewer and waters, to allow those sites to be developed. So we were very fortunate during the good times that we had an influx of many businesses coming this way, so we never had the need to have a policy or a partner like this to do this work for us.
Thanks. You know what comes up in my mind, guys? Might be something too that we would, and Jim mentioned it, CED and the chamber should be looking at it with us as partners within the city, especially chamber.
Well, the CED with Pam Owens, who is a downtown developer.
City center, sure.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what's your pleasure. You want to bring this to the council and then talk to the CED. I've got a CED meeting Friday morning, in fact,
Why don't you do, my suggestion is why don't you consider talking to them first?
Yeah.
And certainly talking to Russ in the chamber.
Sure.
And then, like you said, we can invite him back and he can come back at a moment's notice virtually.
And Mr. Chairman, Scott Fleming from the CED is here in the
Okay.
audience.
Ah, there you go.
Scott, I step up to the, thank you, Scott. I forgot, I've seen him, yeah.
Good evening. I'd like to know what the cost of because we're a whole county, we cover the whole county, what would that be for all of Buxton?
It would really depend what you're looking to accomplish.
Right.
Most of the time, we partner with single communities because our analysis is
If we
looked
get
at
them involved,
on
it's gotta be countywide.
a geographic point. So we're looking at an intersection or a specific space. So, depending on what the county wanted to see, we could look at, creating a custom scope of work based off what your goals were and what you're trying to accomplish.
If I may, I understand what Councilman Hug is saying, but if in fact we do this through the county, then we would be in competition with all the other cities that are in the county.
Exactly.
As opposed to if we did this ourselves, then we would be using this information solely for the city of Joliet to get businesses to the city of Joliet.
Correct.
That's why I don't know about going to the county and the chamber.
Correct.
for
And
this.
other communities in a county, if for example, political boundaries obviously do play a part when it comes to sales tax and things of that nature. So if we were to look at a site that's in Joliet, the other cities, the other communities would not be really seeing the benefit. Now with Scout, with their local businesses, they could. And that would be up to you if you were looking to maybe split that cost off to them. Again, we could create a custom scope of work for the amount of users that we're interested and want to be added. We could, of course, look into that.
Yeah, I just have a problem with competing with the rest of the cities that are in the county. That's all.
And it's apparent that Plainfield has done this on their own,
Yes.
correct? Which is part of Will County, and was that St. Charles, Illinois, or St. Charles, Missouri, or?
I believe it was St. Charles, Iowa.
Iowa, yeah.
I'd like to see the presentation before the full council. I think that from what the little I've seen here, the 3-year, $50,000 investment is probably minimal to what the potential could be.
Exactly.
Can I ask one
Sure.
question? We use CoStar with our retail, we have a retail component with CoStar. How does that compete with Buxton?
I believe CoStar is a retail or a real estate listing.
But they have a retail component that they're listing. They cover all the retail in the area.
Okay.
It's not exactly like Buxton, but we do some analysis with CoStar.
Okay. I'm not too familiar with CoStar right off the bat. I would really tell you that the difference that I know for a fact is going to be the analysis that we provide. Bringing our experience on the private sector side to the community of Joliet, I can almost assuredly, say that with almost 99% that is not
You
going
have
to
a
say.
good reputation.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Maybe we need to ask the money man over there.
Couple of comments, Mr. Mayor, members of the committee. The world of economic development for municipalities is really a solo act. It's not something that you see a lot of municipalities sharing expenses and sharing efforts. We do compete with our neighbors. While we enjoy a very good relationship with Shorewood, Plainfield, New Lenox, Lockport, a lot of other, Crest Hill, a lot of other communities, we do compete for the same business, especially when we share corridors like the Route 59 corridor, where in a matter of 10 miles, you can traverse 3 different towns. And same thing with Interstate 80, where we have the benefit of multiple exits, but we also share some with New Lenox and Shorewood, Shanahan, Manuka. So it's something that the Buxton model is geared more towards the individual municipality. This would not necessarily be a shared expense with the CED. As a matter of fact, the CED is very cautious about not getting into the retail part where there's competitive interest among its members too. They certainly focus on industrial, they focus on transportation, they'll focus on legislative matters that are very beneficial for retailers throughout the county. For us, they've helped us settle out a lot on the gaming bills, where their lobbyist has helped us out a lot in moments when we've had some down to the wire negotiations on the gaming bill. So I think the Buxton proposal is something that we need to look at individually as a community. I have spoken with my counterpart, Brian Murphy in Plainfield. He said that Buxton was very beneficial for his village board in helping change their mindset. A lot of issues that you'll see deals with density issues, and we've had some restrictive rules on density, and it's something that the world of finance in the real estate business has changed dramatically, and Plainfield has ventured off into some real estate projects that you never would have seen in Plainfield going back 20 years ago or 10 years ago. So, and I think they were relying on a lot of the information that Buxton provided them. So that would certainly be good. On the money part of it, we're working on a budget right now that we think, if this becomes a priority for the council, we can help, we can make sure we set aside money for this for the next 3 years. I've known of Buxton and have attended many of their sessions at the Illinois Municipal League Conference over the last 4 or 5 years, and they draw a big crowd, have a lot of customers in Illinois, and they are very good at what they do. It will help us learn about Joliet, though, and that's really, they'll give us information about our own neighbors that we don't know. And it's not as if they're big brother snooping on us. They access, you don't go through NSA to listen to our emails or phone conversations, but they do access information that's in the public domain that helps us understand what percentage of wallet is still remaining in the pocket of our community, and also where are they shopping, and how can we get the slippage that we're seeing back in Joliet. So I think it's worthwhile. I've been a big Buxton fan for several years, and I'm glad we're at this point now.
Your Honor, I've moved that we schedule a session with the full council, and at the same time, when we do that, maybe staff could bring back the where it would be funded in the budget, 2014 budget.
I don't want to, before I go to second it or what have you, I don't want to invite them back prematurely. I really want to talk to myself, talk to some of the references, like I would do in any business transaction. So I don't want to make them make an extra trip. And we are in no denying we're in a transitional period as our current city manager will move on to a new position. We've got a new city manager coming in, and he should be weighing in as much as Tom just did, because Tom's advice was invaluable just now, and so will the new city manager. So maybe we should hold off on asking him to come back and not set a date yet until we can get the references, until that switch is made.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, I didn't set a date.
You didn't set a date.
This in the future.
Yeah, that's fine. We can get all that in line and then get it back, okay?
Yeah, once we get the references,
Yeah,
then we
sure.
can have the
Set a
restructured
date,
staff set a date on it when it would be good. I can make a second to that type of
Okay,
motion.
all right. We got a motion and second to call them back after we get some references. Make sure you get the references. Yes, Roger.
I was wondering, there must be some communities more conducive to business than others. And I was wondering if you make an evaluation of our community that would help us maybe do some land use projects that would make Joliet more valuable to your clients and our clients.
Yeah.
So my question is, what type of specific land use items would you be more parks and recreation, those type things?
That's what I'm asking you, as a developer, as an expert. You know what communities are better for developing business. We would like to know, I would like to know, and I think the whole council would like to know, what we can do to make our community more valuable to people that are coming in, that would potentially come in. I think this is an immensely important question. Can you address it?
To the retailers, you mean? That might be
To the
coming in? Sure.
retailers and ultimately to the citizens of Joliet.
Sure.
A couple things on that. One, I
Step
say
up to the
it's-
microphone, please.
Sorry.
Thank you, Bodie.
Two things on that. One, I think it starts with, from a community perspective, targeting the right retailers in the first place that you as a community have a desire to shop at, so that the efforts are focused appropriately. But then the second piece of that, I would say that there's a lot of information that comes from our databases that can be leveraged so that those businesses are more successful. Maybe it's the marketing piece. Maybe it's what type items they should stock from an inventory control standpoint. Maybe it's even from the community's perspective, leveraging our network of existing community clients. We've worked with over 650 different communities in partnering things that they've done to make it more, appealing to different retailers, to make it more retail friendly?
Well, I think it goes further than that.
Okay.
I think that we can actually do something to make our community more attractive to retailers and to ourselves. And we don't necessarily know that. I mean, I haven't seen it presented. We did a great study for Unity CDC for District 4 and 5. I think it could be done for the whole city. And I think, because of economic times, some money was withheld from those projects. The survey was done, and it was an expensive survey. I think you probably have the information, but it's not as easy to access. You have the information to some extent because some communities are more accessible than others. You probably know some of that. I think we would like to draw on that, and we would like to draw a little bit further on that.
I would say this, two of the biggest values back to that retailer is that you're able to proactively present to them that there is, to
What I'm asking is, what are those things that they would be
Yep,
looking
so-
for?
so-
No,
that
Roger,
point-
maybe that's a different company. Maybe they
Right.
can
Well-
get us, maybe they can get us a name of a company that can help us do that. But that might be, they're strictly retail and businesses. Maybe that's a different company. Maybe we can get that from them.
Mayor, if I might interject.
Sure.
Roger, if I understand your question is, we know that Buxton will come in and they will analyze the community as it sits. And then they will help market it and make the match, correct? You're asking, that's not enough. Can you come look at our community? Sure, make the matches as it sits and make suggestions on what changes in our community to attract other ones. I don't think that's in their purvey.
The Scout tool is really wide-ranging and in the amount of uses that you can find in our data. For example, we host something called the Scout Camp every Friday. This is basically how to utilize Scout to assist communities make data-driven decisions about their communities. So, for example, we can answer questions about if a softball and baseball complex would be supported by your residents in your community. We can answer questions about a music festival. Would a music festival be supported by your residents? If so, what type of music would be appropriate for that type of festival?
And John, I think what Roger's question is, do you advise in the capacity so that we change our data? Do you see what I'm saying? So that we can attract
Can
different...
influence it. I think that what you will see is that retail has a direct impact on quality of life. I think that when you start recruiting new retail, that this is a long process. That's why the 3-year engagement, because we want to see you succeed. That when you start seeing new retail come in, you are going to start seeing residents look at Joliet in a new light, so to speak. For example, when you're looking to move to a new city, you're going to be looking at things like, how close am I to the grocery store? How close am I to my child's school? Things of that nature. So those are going to impact your type of decision. This is things that employers look at as well when they're looking at potential move of have a headquarters to a new location. How easy is it for my employees to have a night out on the town? How easy is it for them to get groceries, to clean their suits, things like that? So I think that in the long-term process, maybe in the quick short term, there isn't a lot we could do. But through retail and through that recruitment and building your local businesses up, increasing those funds, increasing the public funds that you're going to have through sales tax revenue, I think there are things that you will see change over time. Does that in some way answer?
Well, yes, but I think we need to address this kind
I
of
understand
problem.
what you're saying, but I don't think that's under
Okay.
there, okay? Thank you.
Roger, if you could give us your Roger right here, over here, could you give us your name and your address for the record so
Yes,
we
thank
know
you.
who to put you in the minutes?
Roger Thompson, 1110 Nicholson Street, Joliet.
Thank you.
Thank you, sorry about that. We have a motion and second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you, we'll be in touch.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Time review of proposal purchase of the Lagran building, Crabagales. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the committee, as you know, we've been working on the Lagran building, formerly known as Crabagales, for many years. The city actually owns the building, and We've been marketing it through local realtor Keith Conroy for quite some time. We've been able to start a conversation with a restaurant group from Chicago. They currently operate a restaurant in the Ukrainian village. It's called Lockdown. They have great interest in the Crab Gales building for bringing a restaurant that would also be known as Lockdown and have a very similar atmosphere and same type of menu to Joliet at the corner of Chicago Street and Cass Street. One of the principals of the group is P.J. Zonas, who is a University of St. Francis graduate. Spent many years here in Joliet, so certainly knows the community very well. And I think once he saw great success with his business in Chicago, he thought about expanding in Joliet, knowing that there's a great market to be had here in Joliet. The other thing that I believe attracted PJ and his investment group to Joliet is the fact that the Joliet Junior College project is proceeding. Steel's gone up, and they're putting the shell of the building on the outside right now. And I think he's got vision to see that there will be hundreds of college students coming in and out of that building every day, and likes the fact he'll be a half a block away from their front door. What we've done over the last few weeks in working with PJ and his team is to put a term sheet together that outlines some incentives that will be needed to make a deal like this work. I don't think there's any secret that the restaurant business in downtown Joliet is a challenge. It's hard to get foot traffic for evenings when there's not a special event downtown, like a Rialto event. And in order to tackle a building of the size of the Lochran building or Crab Gales, there's going to have to be some help that's provided by the municipality. The terms are we would sell the building to PJ and his group for $250,000. There's a real estate commission that would be payable by the city, and the city would pay traditional seller's expenses. The city would then, in turn, provide a renovation credit, a building renovation credit in the amount of the purchase price, $250,000, that would be reinvested as part of the renovation of the building. And, of course, this would assume that plans are submitted to us, they meet building code, and they meet with our expectations. What we like about the business model that's been proposed is the fact that it's a full-service restaurant, has great hamburgers, great sandwiches, several selections of craft beer, and a fun atmosphere. Jim Haller and a few of the other staffers visited it with me a few weeks ago, and we were very impressed. Went there at lunchtime and saw a real good foot traffic going in and out of the building, and at night business really picks up. So we have always targeted that corner for having some kind of nightlife there. We have had offers in the past for a daytime sandwich type shop, but we didn't think that that was the right fit for that corner. So we've been patient, and now this proposal is before us. We are putting well, first of all, Lockdown would be required to renovate the first floor for the restaurant. There would be a liquor license that they'd have to qualify for through the mayor's office, and it would come back to the city council. But they do already hold a liquor license in Chicago. And then there'd be a renovation of the facility. The renovation would have to be completed within 6 months of the closing date. I'm sure that PJ and his team will want to be open a lot sooner than 6 months, but we wanted to make sure this wasn't a buy and hold situation with the buyer. We want to see some action on the corner soon. The upper floors, and they're spacious, massive. They'll be available for permitted uses in the B2 business district. I think the only plan right now is to clean them up, secure them, and see what other business opportunities may come along, whether it's office space, residential, expansion of the restaurant business, who knows what. But I think right now the focus will be on the first floor only.
Tom, quick question. The upper floors, slightly familiar with the Crab Gales failed project. They had a asbestos remediation problem. Did they ever finish that?
I don't know. I'm sure that they opened up, so they must have completed it, and we can have Dave
On the upper
Mackley.
floors, not the first floor.
Yeah, the first floor I think was fine. I'm not
Right.
sure what may have happened on the second floor and the third floor, but we can follow up with Dave Mackley and find out. A TIF agreement would be provided as we've provided to the department, another restaurant right across the street with similar traditional TIF incentives, nothing out of the ordinary. And then we're proposing a food and beverage tax rebate. We have a 1% food and beverage tax on the sale of food in Joliet. And what we're recommending is a 1-year rebate of the 1% tax for each $100,000 of investment made in the building and the equipment. So if there's a $300,000 investment made, there'd be a 3-year abatement, a 3-year rebate that would be made available. Obviously, there's no risk to the city. There's no obligation for us to pay anything. The only time that we would be rebating any money to the owner would be if they're successful in generating revenue. So we've structured this much like we did the hotel and conference center project, where we wanted to make sure we didn't risk any capital of the city of Joliet. Construction would be done using union contractors and union employees. If the renovation project doesn't move forward and they don't open within 6 months, the city would have the right to have the title revert back to the city. Lockdown would be required to participate in the City Center Partnership and the Joliet Region Chamber of Commerce. And then this would be subject to a formal agreement approved by the City of Joliet, by the City Council, and also their lenders. They are working with a local bank, and the bank wants to see the paperwork, the TIF agreement, the sales contract, those kind of things. So it's like any other major purchase, subject to financing. They're qualifying, but also subject to your approval on a formal basis. PJ is present, and he'd be happy to address, I think, with Ryan. So if you'd like, both of you like to come up and introduce yourselves. PJ is a TV star. He was on Channel 11 on Friday night. Check, please. I'll let you tell the story, PJ.
Oh, yeah. PJ Zonas, Lockdown Bar and Grill. I went to school at University of St. Francis, spent 4 years there. Had a great time. I have to admit, Joliet's been in my heart. Out of everywhere I could have gone, every school, whatever it is, somehow I went to school 3 minutes away from here. 5 years ago, I came up with the name Lockdown. Somehow, I'm in the room with a bunch of suits here and talking about a restaurant in Joliet called Lockdown. So I really feel from the bottom of my heart that I was meant to stand at this podium. This project was supposed to happen, whether you guys believe it or not. I saw that building in my head. I went to that corner because I went to Mojo's to see a lot of my favorite bands through the last 2 years. As I was doing my business in Chicago, in the back of my head, I always thought my restaurant would work very well right by Mojo's because it's a lot of the same kind of bands. And after 4 years of learning every aspect of the restaurant business, from start to finish, I really now know, and I know for sure, I'm ready for this challenge. I want this challenge, and I want to make, first of all, my family proud, and I know I'm going to make Joliet proud too.
Any questions?
No, I just want to thank Tom for putting this together and for sending us the. I heard it was on the air, and I only caught like less than a minute of it, and Tom sent us a link so we could all watch it. I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but very good, and I recognize you from the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
It's I think it's an exciting project, and you're aware of the terms. I'm sure you've gone over them and everything.
Yeah, one other thing I'd like to say is that I opened up Lockdown in 2008 in Chicago, and why I'm very excited about this project. I see exactly what you guys are trying to do with downtown, and the Ukrainian Village area, which I opened up Lockdown, was not what it is today. Meaning 5 years ago, I have a little bit of a I want to blaze my own trail kind of thing, and I didn't listen to anybody. And I said, I'm just going to open it, and I'm going to make it work. And I'll work harder. And, I have to admit, if anybody knows Coach Delgado at University of St. Francis, he always used to say, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? And that stuck with me for a number of years, and it still sticks with me to this day. How bad do you want it? And I never listen to anybody in Chicago. And I have changed that area 100%. It's not, I don't mean to be anything other than factual. It happened. It is continuing to happen, and it will happen the next year as well. And I think that spot had a tenth, if that, of the potential of downtown Joliet, what I see, what you guys are already doing. And that's why it's so exciting for me, is that this seems like a lot easier project than what I've gone through in 4 years in Chicago.
Thank you. Councilman?
Yeah, I had a question. not had the opportunity to go to lockdown in Ukrainian Village. Do have an older relationship with the industry, with
Yes.
the music industry.
Yes.
Is it safe? The description given to me for lockdown, is it a metal club?
I'm sorry?
Is it a metal club?
Yeah, Hard Rock Heavy Metal Club.
It's strictly a restaurant.
Yeah, it's a restaurant first. That's what I knew. I understood the importance of, you can't just have one thing. You got to do everything great in the restaurant business. You can't cater to just one. It can't be too small. You need to open it up a little bit. So I always thought you start with fantastic food, and the rest takes care of itself. And it's been proven in Chicago.
No, the questions I had would be for Tom.
PJ, your address in Chicago?
It's 1024 North Western Avenue. It's on Western, in between Division and Augusta.
Okay. One thing, the fact that junior college is going to attract all them students, that's going to help you tremendously too. So anyway,
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions.
Just for Tom.
Sure.
Not for you guys, I appreciate it. But
Thank you.
You got it. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time.
So Tom, we would sell it for $250, but then the $250 we put back into construction.
Yes.
So it's kind of a zero sum.
It is.
Okay. Then we would also give away 1% per year up to 3 years.
Well, it would be dependent upon their level of investment, and if the level of investment goes beyond $300,000, it would be, if
So
it
it's
went
$1
to
million, it'd
4,
be 10 years.
right?
Have we considered, and far be it for me to try to control competition, but how is Mojo's doing? And it's a similar type of club without the restaurant, just for the entertainment portion?
Yeah, Mojo's is doing very well. They do not have the restaurant operation that PJ is talking about, and while there may be some similarity in customers, I think what we saw when we were there, the group of customers is a wide variety. It's not really, just people that would normally go to Mojo's. So I think you'll see a much different, an array of people that will be going to a place like Lockdown in Joliet.
What did we originally pay for that building?
I'm sorry?
What did we originally pay for that building?
I don't recall, Jim. It was probably,
I don't remember.
we had put some money. There was some investment that was done when it became Crabigales,
Right.
and then we were able to get it back through the foreclosure process.
Correct.
So we paid some money at the foreclosure to clear title on it. I don't recall the amount, but
Well, didn't we sell it to Crabigales?
weren't
we the owner
I
before
think it was.
Crabigales?
I think it was sold for $1.
Yes,
Right.
I believe it was.
Right.
So what did we originally pay?
I
When we
think
took
the
possession.
property was gifted to the city by the Turk family.
Yep.
Then it was sold for $1, and then when it went through foreclosure, the city had to spend some money to clear title to it. So there is some money in this, but obviously that was probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, and we've obviously struggled with trying to move this property, but this seems like the first viable option that that accomplishes the goals that we've had for this corner.
And the other question I have, for the list you have here, I think there's just only 2 more questions. Certainly, we hope everybody does well with the businesses, new and established. If it doesn't open in 6 months, we take back title. What happens to the $250,000 if that happens?
Yeah, we would have the ability to. Well, we're going to be put back in the position we were in initially.
So they would get their $250 back.
Yes. Well, that will be put in an escrow fund to be drawn down for the construction project.
And if it happened, who would pay for all the expenses we already paid?
Yeah. If they put the money in, they don't open up, that's their loss. In other words, any investment in the property, and should this business not proceed, then whatever money they put into the building, that becomes the property of the city of Joliet.
But what about the commission, the real estate?
Oh, commission, I think that's probably a cost that's a sunken cost. We've probably eaten that. Unless there's some money left in the account, we could pay ourselves. I mean, I can talk to Jeff and see if there's a way of protecting us on that. The commission, and I don't recall how we structured it, but it's going to be in that $12,500, $15,000 range. I think we're at 5% on this one.
And if the new owners were to decide to sell within a 3-year period, as I understand it, we have a right of...
Not on a sale. We haven't restricted this, at least I don't think. Let me just take a look at this. I don't really think we've talked about it.
It says if the restaurant closes for business at any time during the 3-year period following the closing, the city shall be entitled to right of first refusal clause in any sale of the building.
Yes, if the business closes, if they'll have the right to sell it as an ongoing operation to a third party, as long as the third party continues to operate a restaurant that meets the criteria here. If they close it and then sell the building to somebody else, then these provisions will kick in.
And that
As
means
far as
we
the
would-
reverter.
Right of first refusal would also give
Yeah,
us the right
I
to
mean,
be a
we're not going to
purchaser.
stop a sale to another restaurateur that wants to keep a viable restaurant at that corner. Certainly, we encourage that. We don't want to get a building back. You know, it's difficult for us to own real estate right now because we have to maintain it, and there's a lot of expenses that go into that, and we just don't have the staff to maintain it ourselves. So there's expense. We're trying to incentivize them if they want to sell it, if they decide, if the business gets really good and somebody wants to buy them out, that's fine. What we want to protect ourselves is a failed business. We don't think it'll fail, but let's say it does, and they close it completely, then there's a reverter that's in place that allows us to get back in.
And with this package, which is like you said, like the package out at the
The
conference
hotel
center,
conference center.
if we take into consideration how it will affect the existing businesses that may be struggling on some level or another already, if in fact, you know, it's not like we're opening another Rialto, for instance, that you're bringing people down who are going to go to a different event and then get hungry. There's going to be a competition there.
I think most restaurateurs tell me that they welcome the foot traffic. They welcome having. They'd love to have another 7 or 8 restaurants in Chicago Street and create a restaurant destination. You have to start someplace. I don't think you can get a deal for the Crab and Gales building without some kind of an incentive package. I just don't think it's out there. We spent a lot of time. Keith has shown the building, and I know he keeps records on it, but you know, there have been countless people who have gone through there. It's been a very difficult sell because of the investment required to put a kitchen in, to put an HVAC system in. You know, a lot of things that need to be upgraded just to meet code. It's a very expensive proposition.
I have your same concerns, Councilman, about the competition, but, you know, we can't refuse if somebody else wants to come down and open a restaurant. We can't refuse because of the competition. You know, we talked about a restaurant road to get people down there, and I think this would be a good start. So.
Right, I agree, Mayor. What I'm referring to is the depth of incentives.
Oh, okay.
Because that will certainly impact as a private business, or I can tell you, if I have a competition that's given advantage in this type of package, we have to consider that, is my concern. Now, actually, my bigger concern, Tom, is I wouldn't be ready to move forward with this tonight myself as a recommendation, because I have concern about that asbestos issue. Short of finding a better vocabulary to describe it, the Crab and Gales thing was kind of a fiasco, and I know the top floors will never finish. And I know this city at the time, and it was during the beginning of hard times, I think, let them skate on a few things because they were trying to just stay open, and then they didn't survive. But I think that we need to consider, okay, if they're going to buy the building, you know, at an affordable price and get these incentives, we need some guarantees on the other floors being brought up to code too.
We don't know if there is a.
Can I address that?
Sure.
Ryan Kohler, development partner with Lockdown. The upper floors currently, we're going to bring them up to code during the construction process of the restaurant, according to our plan and our budget. Right now, we're proposing that as like a community art space, perhaps music space, you know, guitar lessons, that kind of thing. The upper floors will be finished, hopefully at the same time we open the restaurant, but concurrently with it.
Would you have any problem putting that in this agreement?
As of right now, I believe it's kind of in the agreement for the upper floors to be developed at a later time. I don't know necessarily putting a date on that is not something we're against. But once again, until we get financing and we have the TIF agreement, the sales agreement from the city, and we get feedback from the banks, which we haven't been able to do as of now, I don't know quite how much we have to work with.
I'm not in any way insinuating they should have an agreement that has a functioning use up there, just bringing it up to code.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
and Tom had said,
that's
Tom had said
what
earlier
I'm
he was
saying
gonna
too.
look to see
Is the
where it's
community art space literally could just be electrical outlets to code, stairs to code, HVAC to code, and that's kind of bare bones white box, you know, development.
And I think dealing with asbestos is bringing it up to code also.
Correct. That includes any abatement that we have to do for the floors.
So we would show that in the agreement, Tom?
Yes.
They would bring it up to code,
Yeah.
not occupancy, code.
Yeah, you know, we'll find out what's gone on with the previous developer of the property and see what was done up on the second and third floors and report back.
Yes.
And I would recommend then, to the full council that, that we, recommend the, proposal and,
With those additions.
with those additions. And,
Well, should we do that, Mike, when he says he's got to report back on some stuff? The term report back. It's almost like we're putting the cart before the horse.
Well, with those, but with those conditions, because otherwise we gotta have another meeting.
right.
And if those conditions aren't met, then it's a moot point.
Tom?
Time is of the essence. I know they're ready to move forward. I think
The
what you
hardest
would.
part, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I think what you'd see is you'd see the TIF agreement and the sales contract authorizing us to go ahead with the closing. That's what would be presented to the city council. We would address these issues that Councilman Huggs raised regarding the second and third floors before we get to the city council. We can report back to you at a meeting. We can report back to you by memo if you'd like, or email. That might be a little more efficient way of doing it rather than waiting for the next meeting. I think delaying this a month is probably not what they'd rather do. I think they're ready to get in the building.
The hardest part for us is without the TIF agreement and the general sales agreement that we're currently waiting for from the city's attorney, we can't go to a bank. I mean, to start the process of evaluation on their end. And until we get their evaluation, we won't know how much we have to use to knowing we can bring those upper floors to code immediately versus in a short time span after opening the restaurant. As of right now, the restaurant's required, the incentives are there for the restaurant, of course, and our goal and our mission is to get those upper floors occupied, not just up to code. The idea is, though, that until we know where the bank stands with this package, we're not going to know anything. And without your approval, at least in principle, we can't get that TIF agreement and the sales agreement in draft form to the bank to get their feedback as well.
But I think the bank would be interested to know that you're required to bring it up to code, too. That's an additional guaranteed expense up front.
Agreed, but once again, without knowing where they stand on the restaurant portion of it, because the sales agreement and the TIF agreement aren't even in draft form as of now, we're kind of putting the cart before the horse. Until I know we're getting X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars to do the project, we won't know. And of course, our initial proposal to the bank is with the upper floors in mind. It's a part of our construction proposal, part of our construction budget. But once again, the bank's going to determine how much money
I
we have
understand
to
what you're saying. So, Tom, where would that leave us if they went to the bank and the bank gave them enough capital on the loan to simply do the first floor? And I'm saying that we need to make sure that we have the upper two brought to code.
I
They
think
can't move forward there either.
Yeah, we don't want to endanger anybody's lives, so what we'll do is make sure that the second and third floors, and it's not uncommon for floors to remain unfinished in projects like this, whether it's new construction or remodeling an existing building. I think a lot of it will depend upon cost, and I think our goal is, we'd like to see the money where the customers are. And if there's a way of just stabilizing the second and third floor until they're ready to develop that probably helps them out a lot, because obviously there's cash flow issues here, and what we want to do is see the money invested in the restaurant portion. That needs to be successful in order for the second and third floors to be successful.
Well, I guess the reason I bring this up, Tom, is when the last individual was doing it over the period of years, I was up there. I was in the industry as far as we discussed, and I saw the asbestos, I saw the mess of the two floors above it, and I think that has to be addressed.
And
it's not healthy.
We'll look into it. I don't think that was the cause of the demise of the business, but we'll look into it.
I'm not implying that.
Yeah.
It's not a safe thing to do.
I think where you should know where we stand is we're going into the bank with a two-phase project. Restaurant phase 1, phase 2 backing up quickly on the second and third floors. We're going for the money we need to do all of it now with this agreement, with the sales agreement. That is part of phase 2. If there has to be some kind of verbiage in the sales agreement for you to understand that the phase 2 portion is going to be taken care of, or if monies are created or funded by the bank, that phase 2 will happen concurrently with phase 1, that we're open to that. But I think I'm in agreement with Tom is to say that we have every intention, and if we have to make an agreement to do so, of bringing in the second and third floors up to code and standards. I guess as far as the development of a occupiable space or having some kind of function for it at this time, we're not there yet.
And I have no advice or input on that, and specifically, and there's other issues up there, but the most important issue, life safety issue, is the asbestos. Of course. I need, for me to support it, we have 3 up here, for me to support it as a recommendation, I need wording in the contract saying that minimum will be done.
Of course.
In the same 6-month period that you're going to try to open your restaurant in. And if you leave it vacant after that, that's up to you. It's a business decision. But you're opening up a otherwise shuttered building. The last person failed to do on the upper floors what he was supposed to do, and basically failed as a business person, unfortunately, too. And that's a life safety issue. The asbestos is huge.
Understandable, but without anyone occupying the space at this time, bringing up the code, the asbestos abatement, et cetera, is definitely within our plans of this phase. The idea of the next phase and the cost the cost restrictions that go along with developing 3 floors of a large building without knowing where the bank stands on the first floor, which is obviously our target, without having that feedback and having the general agreement written by the city, we're not going to know where we stand on the second and third floors as of now.
So if I'm sorry, if I understand this, you would have no problem putting it into agreement for the asbestos abatement.
Yeah,
as part
I
of the
believe that
agreement.
should be
But
part
as
of the
far as
agreement.
making it ready to occupy is totally
Yeah, I mean,
different.
asbestos abatement, we're talking pennies versus developing
Right,
two
okay, all right.
stories of possibly.
Right, I'm not suggesting that
right.
we should require you to have it fully functioning, fully developed, occupied. That's up to you. It's your building.
I understand.
But it's got to be up to code, which would include the asbestos.
Of course. And that was always our plan from day one.
So, Tom, you would put that in the final agreement then?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a second?
Is there a second?
Following that conversation, there's a second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, gentlemen.
Good luck.
Good luck. Alexander Lumber.
Mr. Mayor, members of the committee, as Bob Hacker approaches the podium on behalf of Alexander Lumber, this is a conversation we had a few weeks ago regarding a request from Alexander Lumber to address an issue regarding sales tax and some of the challenges that Alexander Lumber is running into with the home rule sales tax that adds some additional costs that some of the competitors do not have. I know the mayor was familiar with the issue when he and I met with Mr. Hacker and some of his colleagues from Alexander Lumber. I believe Councilman Hugg and I had a conversation about this, so I think you're well aware of the situation. And I think Bob is here to seek your support for moving forward on an abatement program.
Well, I apologize for Jim Weekman got called out of town at noon today, so I was not aware that I had to do this until sometime after lunch, but I'll do the best I can here. Just a little bit about Alexander Lumber. They have about 35 yards. They've been in business over 100 years. At the start of this year, they went through to make the determination of what they were going to do with the different yards. The Joliet yard, they are now spending over $300,000 bringing it up, putting a whole new front on the building. They did a new parking lot and put new concrete in, and they've remodeled the whole inside with all new displays. So Alexander's going to be here. I'd like to point out that they're the only lumber yard left in Joliet, and they're the only union yard in the area. The thing that we're asking for is some relief on the sales tax. If you take a look at that paper that I passed out, you'll see the different areas around us that sell and where we compare to them. When I say a bill out in a house, it's usually the lumber that takes to frame it. The windows and trim are another section. If you take $50,000 in windows and trim, and you take our sales tax and you go down to just the 7%, it's $875 difference. And you can see that's quite a difference in what we're being faced with. We feel very strongly that if we could get some relief, that you would get probably more revenue out of the Alexanders, because we would pick up business that we're now losing to these people. One of our competitors is just outside the city of Joliet. One side of the street is Joliet, the other side is out. He's in the county, and he's got a lot lower sales tax in the county than we do. So we would hope that you could look at this. We don't have no problem with other building trades in the city of Joliet. We compete with them all the time. Just something that happened last month. I lost 4 houses to a local builder in Joliet, to an outside Joliet competitor. This gentleman has 28 houses to build in Joliet here coming up. He's already got under contract, and we would certainly like to keep them in the city of Joliet, and we would hope that we would be able to work something out that we'd be competitive with them. Not that the sales tax is the only thing that goes into this. There's other things I realize too, but as you can see, the difference in the areas where we compete against, there's quite a difference. And hopefully that you could do something to help us out Again, like I say, I think that if you do something, it will actually bring more sales tax into the city of Joliet, because we will be picking up business that right now we're losing to areas outside the city of Joliet. And I think that paper in front of you kind of explains the whole thing, what we're faced with as we go into the different areas.
What kind of abatement are you looking for? Change.
You know, Mayor, I don't think that Jim, and when he talked to you at that thing, that they didn't want to give a number. They would like to see what you feel would be fair to us. Anything would be appreciated, and but there is quite a difference between most of them and us.
Questions? Comments?
The one that you said you lost the 4 homes to, was that the one from unincorporated Will County?
No, it's one of the towns nearby.
Okay, all right.
And Tom, we kind of talked about this, about trying to be creative as it pertains to the construction industry. And I think Bob and I had mentioned that too, so that we don't want people coming in necessarily, merchants, you know, not that Alexander Lumber would do this, but certainly this type of abatement, any abatement we come up to would have to be available to anybody within Joliet that serves the same crowd. And we don't want them coming in saying, I bought a hammer, you know. We don't want one of the chains saying, I bought a hammer, you know, I sold a hammer and I want 0.25% back, 0.5%. Did you come up with something creative, or are you still working on that?
Well, it's, we wanted to get a sense of the committee's position on this, since you're newly formed and this does fall within the wheelhouse of economic development. This is not attracting new business, this is retaining an existing business and allowing them to compete with other businesses that aren't subject to a home rule sales tax. Usually, most communities have gone to a home rule sales tax. Almost all of them have. Romeoville, Shorewood, Plainfield, they all have added a 1% tax. We're at 1 3/4%. I think Romeoville may be at 1.5. I think Bolingbrook's in the 1 1/4, 1.5 range. So most of the towns in the Will County market have a home rule sales tax. It's the ones in the unincorporated portion, like Searles, that do not have that. So they're probably about 1 3/4%, if not lower than what Alexander's subject to. And then there's some out of county competitors that don't have a home rule sales tax to contend with. So I think we were trying to get a gauge on this, because this does open up the issue for other businesses that sell big ticket items that may be coming back, and we were looking for some feedback from you as to whether you think there's some kind of baseline that we can work from. Anything above a certain dollar amount might be considered for this. I think you made the point, for the hammer sale, we're not going to incentivize those types of sales, but you're looking at something that perhaps is related to the construction industry, where there's new construction or a major remodeling job, where we can incentivize that to happen along with that.
For some reason, didn't we? Maybe it was Bob's example. Didn't we talk about $50,000?
I think you and I spoke about a $50,000 threshold, but I don't think there's been any discussion on fixing a number yet.
This would only apply to lumber, windows, doors.
Anything in the building trades, and again, we don't
Well,
have.
that includes nails and,
Well, I guess anything that would go into it. The simplest bookkeeping, I suppose, for everybody involved would be just to lower the rate. That would be across the board to
but now
everybody.
now we got places like Menards and Home Depot.
And we don't have a problem if they get it too, because they're our competitors. And
Yeah, I know, but
and I would think, well, I'd like to point out one of their, show you what's happening, one of our main competitors that you mentioned, when they get a big house job, they're shipping it out of another yard that has a lower tax rate. So we're losing that sales tax too.
Just pulling it from the agenda.
maybe have Tom come up with some kind of recommendation, we can.
Do a little investigation.
Right, yeah. Maybe, Tom, why don't you come up with some kind of a recommendation, do some investigation, and come up with a recommendation for us to consider. I see no problem, but I do have a problem with including nails and hammers and stuff like that. If it applies to lumber and windows and whatever, doors, something like that. But maybe you put your thinking hat on and come up with some kind of a recommendation.
We would definitely need some type of parameters, because obviously you will see in a presentation later this evening that sales tax is getting better, and sales tax is our lifeline right now, and it is the one revenue stream that is growing. And I know that we've had a lot of requests to try to reinstate programs and do a lot of fun things that we used to do, but the reality is we still have major obligations on the healthcare front, pension front, salary front that need to be taken care of. And you'll also hear a report on capital improvement or capital expenses that we really need to focus on. We need to focus on our core operations before we start either restoring some of the old programs or looking at rebating. So that's why you have to have something like this tailored very narrowly so it only applies to certain situations and it accomplishes the goal of bringing in new business. That slippage that Buxton talked about earlier at the meeting, that's what we want to prevent. And if we need to have a narrowly focused rebate program, that's what we need to work on. I know Bob mentioned to me that Buffalo Grove has a similar program, and we're going to have to look at some of the other communities and see what they've done with theirs.
With one of our competitors.
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll do that. Why don't you come up with something for us to look at?
Okay.
All right?
And certainly, maybe you invite Alexander Lumber to give us a proposal or a baseline of their own.
Yeah. Could do that.
Both options.
Yeah, Councilman Hug, maybe Alexander can give us a base proposal of their own also to consider. So, thanks, Bob. Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Jim?
Mr. Chairman, if you would, I could defer over and send my report out by email tomorrow. I've got a page and a half of prospects
Fine.
and projects.
Do that. Thank you. Scott?
Actually, I asked Scott to defer his presentation. His is a little lengthier than 5 minutes, and I think we
Okay, that's
we
fine.
probably need a couple of minute break for the 3 members of the
Sounds
committee.
good.
His presentation was going to be on the fiber optic project that you had approved, and he's got a real good report that he's already made to the City Center Partnership and the Joliet Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, and they were very pleased to see the progress we've made on that.
Very good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Well, should we set another date, or do we have an idea, or at least
I'm
to think
not
of?
looking December, I'm looking after the first of the year.
You want to do after the first of the year? Yeah, we're getting to
Holidays and stuff like that.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
All right, so we can set something in January, that'd be
Yeah,
fantastic. There's a
okay.
couple items I want to get on there.
Okay, all
Okay.
right, no problem.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.